Diane Abbott was responding to an article in The Guardian by Tomiwa Owolade, who had written about racism in the United Kingdom and mentioned, of course, that Jews, gypsy travellers and the Irish also experienced racism. And she wrote a letter to the newspaper saying that it is true that many types of white people with points of difference, such as redheads, can experience prejudice, but they're not all their lives subject to racism. In pre-civil rights America, she said, Irish people, Jewish people and travellers were not required to sit at the back of the bus. And in apartheid South Africa, those groups were actually allowed to vote. And at the height of slavery, there were no white-seeming people, she said, manacled on the slave ships. Now, of course, this has all been very incendiary because it's not only controversial, but also ridiculous and wrong. One only needs to look at Nazi Germany and the run-up to that period of history to realize that Jews have, within living memory, been, of course, subject to exactly the kind of racism she was suggesting. The two 1935 Nazi Nuremberg laws, the Reich citizenship law and the law for the protection of German blood and German honor, really forbade Jews from doing all sorts of things purely because of their racial background, as the Germans saw it, from going to school and receiving an education to being able to own their own businesses, to being able to live in areas with non-Jews. And of course, ultimately, it was the reason that they were rounded up and killed in an industrialized extermination attempt. So Diane Abbott has withdrawn those comments. Even that has been a slightly peculiar part of the story, because she blamed the errors, as she put it, on a draft being sent to the newspaper instead of what she really thinks. And of course, one then needs to ask why there was a draft from which she now totally disassociates herself.
Well, that's one interesting draft, that's for sure. But how surprising is it really, Jonathan? Or let me ask it that way, is Labour anti-Semitism cureless?
Well, the problem here, of course, for Keir Starmer, who's the leader of the Labour Party, is that he wants to show that he is really, in terms of anti-Semitism, not willing to take any sort of anti-Semitism within the party. Under the previous leader, Jeremy Corbyn, there was the anti-Semitism controversy that plagued the party for years. When Keir Starmer took over, he promised he would wipe it out, rip out anti-Semitism from its roots. And he has tried to do that publicly. In fact, he withdrew the whip from Jeremy Corbyn himself and has said that he'll never stand again as a Labour MP in an election. Now he's withdrawn the whip temporarily from Diane Abbott while they're investigating what's happened here, and there are calls for him to do the same to her. She is an ally of Jeremy Corbyn's for many, many years on the far left of the party, and so many will be looking at that saying this is an opportunity for Keir Starmer to remove her from the party altogether, not just because of these racism comments, but to also show quite clearly that the party is still under that new management. However, many in the Jewish community are still not entirely sure that the anti-Semitism problem has gone away. Some point out repeatedly that Sir Keir Starmer himself only a few years ago was campaigning for Jeremy Corbyn to be the Prime Minister, saying that he would make a good Prime Minister, and therefore there are questions over whether or not his commitment to eradicating anti-Semitism within the party are quite as serious as they seem, whether it's just a question of political expediency on his part.